Chapter 4. The room full of boys stared at Sol in shock. For a moment, the entire room went quiet. But soon, 3 boys exchanged glances and stepped forward. Yuvi got some nerve. The first boy picked up a chair from the floor and swung it hard at Sol. "Let us see whether your hand is tougher than wood." Sol raised his left hand, the bone white one, and smashed it into the wooden stool. Crack! The stool shattered instantly, splinters flying across the attacker's face. Yet none of the boys moved to attack again. Everyone fell silent. Their faces were no longer filled with surprise but dread. Even Bran, groaning on the floor, stared at Sol's left hand in horror and instinctively backed away. There was no hiding the left hand now. The servant boys didn't wear gloves. They did manual labor daily. It was impossible not to use their left hand. So Sol simply exposed it, using it to shock the others and shift attention away from his right hand. You recursed? That was the first thing that came to their minds. Get it spread? Go tell the steward. Sol didn't bother explaining. He turned his gaze to Bran and suddenly reached out with his left hand. Ah! Bran was so terrified that he forgot about the pain in his left hand. He scrambled away on all fours. Sol waved his skeletal hand at the others again. The group of boys shrieked and stumbled back in terror. Sol suddenly realized he was being a bit childish, but he had to admit it felt good. Starting tomorrow, I am not cleaning the corridor anymore. No one dared argue. You all take turns. He pointed his bone-white index finger at Bran. You first. Bran's face turned pale in an instant. Steward, did SMP cursed and didn't he report it? A boy's voice rang out behind him. Sol turned to see one of the other boys who often mocked him, now leading a middle-aged man in a black uniform into the room. The steward showed no fear upon seeing Sol's hand. Instead, his brows drew together in a quick frown. Come with me. Sol glanced at the snitch, then silently followed the steward out. They walked to the storage room. Speak, the steward said. I helped second-rank apprentice Lady Concha with a live experiment, Sol replied. The steward froze. You volunteered? Sol was confused. What, with the steward going to file a lawsuit on his behalf? Ahem. The steward cleared his throat. I mean, did Lady Concha pay you? If not, you can request compensation from the butler. After all, servants are assets of the townmaster. Even apprentices aren't allowed to just use you up. Sol didn't believe a word of it. Before he transmigrated, he'd been killed by a wizard apprentice with a book. Now that he'd taken over this new soulless body, no one had come to apologize or compensate him. This steward was just testing his relationship with Concha. So, Sol replied with a calm face, no. Seeing the steward's expression shift, he continued, Lady Concha and I don't need to talk about compensation. The steward's face changed again. He was halfway to getting mad but then forced to smile instead. Haha, well then, I won't get involved. You can go back, no need to work for the next couple of days, rest up. He glanced nervously at Sol's skeletal left hand. Sol gave a slight bow. Thank you, steward. As he pushed the door open, he saw the boys crowding around the dorm entrance, craning their necks to look his way. When Sol walked over, they immediately scurried back inside. He pointed at the snitch, Yuri on duty the day after tomorrow. The boy's face turned as pale as Bran's. For the next 2 days, Sol lived quite comfortably. No one gave him orders. He could wander most of the 4th floor freely. No one dared fight him for food, so he finally got to eat hot meals and, occasionally, even meat. The steward even brought him a bottle of potion the next day, saying it was to heal his head injury. What a joke. He didn't even have a scar on his forehead anymore. Still, Sol accepted the potion respectfully and thanked the steward profusely. Everything he was enjoying now came from others' assumptions about his connection with Concha. But if he couldn't become a wizard apprentice, it would all vanish, and he'd return to being nothing. Concha didn't even care to remember his name. Without that title, he had no right to be arrogant. All he could do was scare the weak-minded boys. On the 3rd day, something happened. The boy who went to clean the corridor at dawn didn't return. The steward eventually showed up carrying the boy's corpse. One boy excitedly described it to Sol. The servant's head had turned into a flower. The skull formed the center, while the flesh peeled back in layers like petals, bright red, like fire. After bringing back the corpse, the steward handed it off to the trash handlers. Blood dripped all the way down the corridor, and even Sol, who was supposed to be resting, was summoned to help clean up. Sol crouched with the others scrubbing the bloodstains from the floor. None of the wizard apprentices walking by paid them any mind. They were always in a rush, never caring which servant had died this time. Sol even caught a glimpse of Concha's chin. Her head was hidden under a hood, not nearly as terrifying as at night. Back in the room, the steward returned. I think you've rested enough. You will resume your duties tomorrow. Understood, Sol replied immediately. Someone whispered behind him. Clearly, people had noticed Concha ignoring him earlier. Because she hadn't spared him even a glance, some now believed Sol was bluffing about their connection. The steward frowned at how readily Saul agreed. Just as he was about to speak again, the door swung open. The butler had entered. "Aye, sir." The steward bent low in a 90-degree bow. "What brings you here?" The butler ignored him completely, his face cold as he looked at Saul. "You re Saul?" Saul knew that this was the opportunity Kongsha had promised. He quietly clenched his hand inside his sleeve. "Yes, sir." "Come with me." The butler turned and left, never acknowledging the steward once. Saul brushed past the steward, offering him a small nod and smile. Sweat instantly beaded on the stewardess' forehead. Saul followed the butler all the way to the 6th floor. The 6th through 9th floors were mainly for junior apprentices, though some higher-level ones who didn't want to move out still lived there. The tower usually felt deserted, but today the hallway was packed. Dozens of children, neatly dressed, stood in rows. But none of them looked innocent or childlike. Their faces were pale, full of fear and unease. "A ghost stand at the end," the butler said, leading Saul to the back of the line and pointing with his chin. "Yes." Saul knew these were the new wizard apprentices. He suppressed his excitement and walked quietly to the end. The kid at the end turned around at the noise, eyeing Saul first with confusion, then irritation. Saul didn't know what his problem was, but he glared back, unflinching. After living with the other boys these past few days, Saul understood one thing. This world wasn't like his old one. Being kind and gentle only made you a target. So he might as well meet this world with strength.